Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Animation Appreciation Podcast. I'm your host, Liliana Stargazer, and today we'll be covering the 2001 film Spirited Away. Let's begin, shall we? The note from Chihiro's friend says, Chihiro, stay well. Let's meet again. Riza. This is Japanese translation. I used a translation app. If you look behind Chihiro while she's in the car, you can actually see that she has a Kit Kat. Which, by the way, the Japanese people have a massive variety of flavors of Kit Kats. When her dad hits the brake, you can actually see the brake pedal pushing back. That is anti-lock brakes. It's meant to stop the brakes from jamming. The way Chihiro's face shows how she knows they shouldn't go, yet her parents ignore her, and that little hop, hop, hop she does as she knows she has to go with them, but knows it's a bad idea and they won't listen. The helplessness of being a child to parents who are forcing you to go where you know you is a bad vibes or bad idea. Yeah, the way they capture that is beautiful. As a child with anxiety, I completely understood this. I got forced to go places in a similar way. That my personal favorite thing they would do is, fine, just stay there then. Yeah, no, I hated that. The way Chihiro's mom holds her hand off to the side when she eats, that's actually based on someone Miyazaki knew at the time. I think it was like a friend or staff member's mother that saw eating around. Not 100%. Also, for anyone who isn't aware, in Japanese, also for anyone who isn't aware, in Japan, it's actually more common for children to do things alone. So her wandering off isn't that odd or considered dangerous like it would be here in the US. That being said, there's even a whole like event when they come of age where they go do some chores out and about on their own and they're given their own money and people help them. It's real sweet. Also, the way Chihiro runs and moves was studied and animated from a real person or people. Miyazaki has always done that. He studies reality intently. For in his words, how can you animate what you've never seen? There's even a little short called Boro, which I haven't seen. It's playing at the Studio Ghibli Museum. And according to the documentary that I saw on this film, he even had to use like a magnifying glass to see how the Boro would see a plant. Because, by the way, if you don't know, Boro means caterpillar in Japanese. But in the documentary, you even see him using a magnifying glass near a plant, I believe it's a old tomato plant, because he said it wasn't quite at its prime. And he would just study this plant and the dirt around it and everything. So I think he even said, and I quote, I blame the Boro for living in such a troublesome place. I love quoting Miyazaki. He's silly. The sound design for this movie, the dust motes each have a little swish, swish, swish when they touch each other. They're tiny little squeaks, and the sounds the candy they eat is makes as it is thrown to them, and the sound of the radish spirit feel like his little feet when he walks. It goes squeak, squeak, squeak. In an interview, Miyazaki actually addressed who or what No Face is. He said we pass hundreds of No Face every day, people with no personality of their own, just reflections of those around us, or simply the ones who think money will buy them happiness. I knew one of those in college, and I hope she found a personality instead of just being who everyone around her wants her to be. Speaking of No Face, fun fact Adam Savage, formerly of Mythbusters, cosplays as him and even gives out chocolate gold, those little coins. There's no issue, other than the fact that no one would take his gold. It took him a minute to realize why. No Face eats anyone who takes his gold. I just think it's hilarious that a man as intelligent as Adam was silly enough to forget that No Face eats people. For anyone confused by how she removed three kanji from Chihiro and her last name about and got the word sen, it's about the contextualized pronunciation of the Japanese culture and their names. The full four is her given and family name, and for some reason, kanji is not always pronounced exactly the same. It depends on what's around it, which is why I cannot learn them as a language. And also, in many cultures, knowing someone's real name or taking their name gives you power over them. That's why the Fae will walk up to our heroes of legend and go, "May I have your name?" And why anyone who knows anything about the Fae go, "You may not have my name, but my name is." Because if you give them your name, they've given them power over you. The polluted river spirit was actually based on a river that Miyazaki knew about from his youth, down to the pulling out of the bike and all the other garbage. It was either him or someone he knew that was helping clean the river. The reason the monogram seal is so important in this movie is actually down to a Japanese cultural thing. In Japan, a person's monogram seal is as good as a handwritten signature. It's so important that they actually have specialty cases for them, and and anyone who lives in Japan actually has these seals, to the point when Gaijin Goomba from YouTube was actually living there for a while. He had a seal of his own, and his like case broke and he had to go buy a new one, and they actually gave him a hard time because he is white and didn't look Japanese. You can actually catch the full video on his channel. One thing I noticed while watching is that No Face slams into the wall of the elevator shaft as he comes down the stairs. You can actually see people on the other side getting jarred around before they run. I know this should make perfect sense, but it's just one more thing that makes this a great piece of animation. Also, having to do a ton of research for this, going by the decay around the car and how much the grass around the stones of the pavement and everything grew, I'd say they were gone for 1 to 4 weeks as the car did start. And gas goes bad about 6 months in, batteries die after about a month, or even more. I've had one die after almost 2 weeks. Um, there was a snowstorm and we were carpooling. Since it was 3 days spirit world time, let's call it 1 week for each day. And my theory is they returned in no more than 3 weeks after entering. That is all I was able to find in this one. I hope you enjoyed this little episode. Thank you for listening. And as always, if it's animated, especially by Studio Ghibli, someone did it on purpose. Thank you and have a great night.